To the real story. Ben Bernanke is a huge fan. No, actually, he'd probably want me to call him a student of the Great Depression. I don't know if he dresses up in Great Depression wear on the weekends, but he wrote, quote, "I'm a Great Depression buff. I mean, this way some people are Civil War buffs." Get the spats out. While I'm glad Bernanke is studying the lessons from the past, maybe the real story is that he should brush up on the far more recent and relevant crises of the past, like Japan's meltdown in the 1990s. Here are just a few of the uncanny parallels. In the 1990s, long real estate boom that caused Japan's banks to loan money to virtually everyone who came in with their hand out caused a few problems. Wait a minute, our banks have done exactly the same thing. In the 1990s, the bursting of that bubble in Japan exposed their bank's bad lending habits, causing a massive liquidity crisis that spread throughout the system. Kind of like our banks are now being exposed as well. And wow, look around. Have you noticed what was called a subprime crisis is now called a credit crisis? In the 1990s in Japan, the Japanese government created something called a convoy system, in which they asked strong financial institutions to prop up or take over the weaker ones. We now have our government playing matchmaker by propping up Bear Stearns and then facilitating a takeover by J.P. Morgan Chase. In the 1990s, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates to near zero and used taxpayer money to pump billions into their system, all of which crushed their currency, the yen. Well, now our Fed's doing the same thing to the dollar, which has fallen 22% against the yen since June. But while the parallels are obvious, the outcome is going to be very, very different, because the fundamental premise of Japan's economy is completely different than ours. We're not built on saving. They save their money. We're built on spending. They were built on making and shipping products like televisions and cars over to us. We're built on buying them. Japan could withstand a few of their consumers tightening their belts because, well, they saved their money. But when Americans stop spending, the engine that drives 70% of the American economy stops right along with it and falls through the floor. Joshua Rosner is the managing director of Graham Fisher and Company. Josh, we're not really fixing anything. We're moving things around. We're putting Band-Aids on our problems, right or wrong?
Well, no, I think that's largely right. What we're fixing is we're trying to fix confidence, and that's the issue that the Fed is trying to address. But at the same time, they're not getting to the roots of the problem, either in the housing market or, in fact, in the credit markets, where the illiquid securities are still illiquid.
Okay, I don't understand. And, look, I'm a recovering alcoholic rodeo clown, so I'm pretty much a dope. Help me figure this one out. Restoring confidence. What does that mean exactly? So we go out and spend more money? 70% of our GDP is built on us spending. We're in debt up to our eyeballs. What do we need confidence for?
Well, what they're really worried about right now is a systemic crisis, right? One institution falling, knocking down other institutions, and so on. Yeah. And so what the view is that they need to at least stabilize the system. I'm not sure that this is actually doable with the current tools that they have.
Yeah, I mean, we're stabilizing a system, but again, while we're stabilizing the system, and please tell me, I really want to be wrong on this. Please tell me I'm wrong. As we stabilize the system, we are screwing ourselves with the dollar. Our dollar is falling through the floor.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that that's one of the issues that at some point someone's going to really have to wake up to, because the ultimate cost here of this failing, which I think in all likelihood we're going to end up in a more protracted problem like Japan, is inflation. And I think that you're exactly right. I think the dollar is ultimately the problem here.
But see, I don't understand these people. If I can figure this out, here's the front page of the New York Times. It says, even experts can't grasp this crisis. That's on the front page. I'm not an expert, and I can grasp it. It's overspending. It's out of control spending. It's people pretty much just betting on other things. I mean, our markets have become giant casinos.
That's right. But, Glenn, if you were, in fact, a buff of the Great Depression, your biggest fear might be deflation. And you might actually not really pay attention to, that's not to say you shouldn't, the fear or the problems of inflation.
But again, if I read the paper today, which I did, I read the paper today, I found 4 stories of 3 different countries where you have to go to a major bank if you want to exchange your dollar. They don't want the dollars anymore. You've got Vietnam wanting to unpeg from the dollar, and you have, I think, 4 different countries in the Gulf region that want to unpeg from the dollar. What is that going to do?
Well, look, I think that ultimately it means that when our consumers walk into Walmart, they're going to be paying a lot more for their goods.
And, you know, I ask this of everybody that we have on. Anything Joe Sixpack can do at this point?
I mean, unfortunately, the answer is one that, by the way, Washington would not be happy with. But I think it's time to really retrench, trim your savings, pay down your floating rate debt as aggressively as you can, and really prepare to weather a storm.
Joshua, thanks.